We're back with a new season of 90 Day Fiance. I have a nice new apartment that is not furnished at all, so pardon the mess. And I am still in desperate need of a haircut. But enough about me. Let's meet the new cast of this season of 90 Day Fiance. And personally, I can't wait to meet a new cast of completely normal and totally relatable people. Like Sophie, a rich social media influencer who grew up with maids but has had a really tough life, guys. Nikki, another super rich person who spent over $1 million on plastic surgery, dating a Moldovan who likes her for how natural she looks.
I like when you're more natural.
And a witch.
I am a witch.
Oh, and Gino and Jasmine are back. You remember when seeing this much plastic surgery on the screen at one time used to be a novelty? Is there some new tax write-off for plastic surgery that I'm unaware of? Do I need to get some work done? That's a rhetorical question, by the way. You don't need to point out all my imperfections in the comments. All right, enough yammering. Let's meet the cast. Ashley is a self-described witch, or as my dad would say, unemployed, who does tarot readings and astrology and specializes in shadow work, aka unlicensed therapy, but with better decorations. Ashley has faced some scrutiny for being a self-described witch, and she believes that's because society still has this idea that witches are these crooked-nosed old ladies in the swamp who place hexes on people, and she wants to make it clear that she doesn't do anything like that. And while I'm sure some people somewhere still think like that, I'm sure, but I think most of us don't like witches because we think they're snake oil salesmen and all full of shit. I'm not accusing Ashley of being anything like that. I don't know who she is. But in terms of first impressions, seeing her in a totally real and not at all staged for TV shadow work session with a client, and speaking with such certainty that, I'm sure you feel insecure sometimes. You know what that is? That's childhood trauma.
This little twinge of doubt, this isn't gonna work. Childhood trauma.
I don't like the certainty and the kind of diagnosing feel that a lot of spiritual practitioners have when they work with people. Hello, Mrs. Witch? I feel like I keep dating the wrong people, and I'm wondering if you might have some advice on how I can find the right person for me. Oh, well, I pulled the upside down Super Mario Kart card. Your problem is that every time you go play kickball on Tuesdays with Tim, he's thinking bad thoughts in his head because he just had a bad day because it rained on Monday, and you absorb his negative thoughts. Then when you go to work on Wednesday, you're distracted by all of your insecurities and how you didn't perform well enough at kickball, and then you meet another person whose name is T, and you think that you can solve your problems with a T person by going to them and playing kickball, and your brain is going through this kicking motion like they're trying to kick down a door when your spiritual guides have been trying to tell you that you wouldn't have to fight at all anymore if you just dated someone whose name started with a vowel. Oh my god, it's like that one time I was grounded and I kicked the door and stubbed my toe. I am always trying to be the best person I can be, and that is really exhausting. Maybe I should find someone who accepts and loves me for who I am. And whose name starts with a vowel. That's great to hear. That'll be $300. Anyway, Ashley went to Ecuador on a biology trip back in college, where she met this guy, Manuel. And, being a dumb 20-something, they got engaged after a week. She went back home, they tried to make the long distance thing work, but that didn't work out, because obviously. And now, 7 years later, they reconnected through social media, decided to get engaged again, and now Manuel is flying to America to start his new life with Ashley. Except he's not in America yet, and his visa expires tomorrow?
Tomorrow his visa expires.
Why would you wait until the last possible day of your visa to do an international flight? You know flights get delayed, right? And the border people are gonna look like, why does your visa expire tomorrow? Why is that when you're coming? Are they even gonna allow that? Because your visa would expire the second you get to America. I don't know, sounds like pretty poor planning to me, but I guess getting engaged after a week of meeting someone is also poor planning. Up next, we have Gino and I'm just kidding, I'm not talking about them. Does anybody still care about them as a couple? I mean, I'm open to talking about them if people are interested, but I feel like people are kind of burned out on them. I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. Are you done with Gino and Jasmine, or are you still okay with seeing the greatest hits highlights of what happens with them? I feel like people are kind of burned out, but let me know. Our next contestant for most plastic surgery is Sophie, a social media influencer from England. Sophie comes from a rich family with a big house and lived with maids even, while her partner Rob is a struggling model in Inglewood, California of all places. And if you don't know Inglewood, it's not a good place. In fact, all of their scenes for the entire episode revolve entirely around this wealth dynamic between them. They're very much setting the story up that Sophie is a somewhat privileged, used to the nice and finer things in life, and she's moving in with Rob in a very dinky single studio apartment in LA that doesn't even have a bathroom. Yeah, the bathroom is a shared bathroom outside with all the other studio apartments, and that is where our privileged little used to maid Sophie is going to be moving in with. I don't know why Sophie's moving in with Rob. It seems like it'd be a lot easier if Rob just moved in with Sophie, but I guess that wouldn't be as good for content. You know, now that I think about it, she introduced her job as a fashion model and did content creation kind of thing, you know, social media stuff. She kept it vague, and I interpreted that, and I think like a lot of people interpreted it as, okay, so you're like an Instagram social media influencer. But you know, let me just check. Let's see if she has an OnlyFans. 1,100 posts, last seen 1 hour ago. TLC, why do you keep casting these people? We know they're on here just to promote their own social media and their OnlyFans page. They're gonna make up all their drama just to stay relevant. These are not real, authentic people who are genuinely being on the show chasing love. Oh, what a coincidence that she's dating a struggling model in LA. LA? You mean the place that everyone is trying to promote their own personal brand and gain more notoriety? Yeah, this sounds like it must be a really genuine love connection and not at all some social media clout chasing thing again, right? Just, we've seen the movie before. We don't need to watch it again. We know what happens. Do you need to cast all these people, or do you have a shortage of normal people who happen to be in long-distance international relationships? Oh, and she has a SoundCloud with 72 followers because she makes music too. What is it with rich people who think they know how to make music? I mean, it's fine if you have money and you just really like music and you want to like mess around with it, I guess. But I think the problem is there's a kind of lack of humility that a lot of these rich people have, where there seems to be an implicit assumption that just because they want to do something that they just can, like they have the talent and skill and expertise in doing these very difficult things. Like, no, just because you're rich doesn't mean you actually have musical talent. Let me know in the comments and be genuine. If you watched the episode, when these people came on, were you genuinely excited to hear their story? Or did you kind of roll your eyes and think, this again? Editor James here. You can tell because I did eventually get that haircut. Turns out I was completely wrong about the OnlyFans thing, and that profile that I posted is just not her at all. Even though she goes by one name online, apparently she used to go by another name, which is the same name that this OnlyFans model uses. And they're advertising that they were, you know, voluptuous and from the UK, so I just kind of assumed it was the same person, but it's totally not at all. But I thought the rant was kind of funny, and it's still pretty relevant for other members on the show, so I left it in. Anyway, I don't really have a problem with Rob and Sophie themselves. You know, that they seem like fine people, you know, that they don't seem that bad. I'm just annoyed that TLC keeps going for these obviously clout chasing, fake, not real people who pretend they're music artists and they think they're all fancy, you know, and when really at the end of the day, they're just a bunch of really unrelatable rich people with a bunch of plastic surgery who call themselves recording artists. Yeah, I'm just sick of that.
Don't even bother.
I am a recording artist known as Nikki Exotica.
Sexy, exotic, erotic, hypnotic, making the boys get so psychotic.
What are we doing? Where are the normal people? This is Nikki, a 47-year-old woman who apparently spent over $1 million on plastic surgery to achieve her look. So, be that what it is. She's also another rich person who thinks they're a music producer.
As a music artist.
Who has a whopping 212 monthly listeners on Spotify with hits such as Man Whore and All Lined Up. Like, drugs? Obviously that's not her day job, so she also is a hairstylist, a makeup artist, and a plastic model consultant, which until now I did not know existed. I suppose if you're going for her look, then she would be a good person to consult in that regard. But, how do I put this nicely? I don't think she'd be the first person I would go to for advice on plastic surgery. She says she has her fair share of haters, and she understands that when you get this level of plastic surgery, you're bound to draw some negative criticism. But she says she doesn't care about the 20% negative feedback because 80% of the feedback she gets is positive, so who cares? And she's done caring what people think because there was a time in the past where she didn't love herself, and that now she does love herself, and that's hence why she's ready to start a new relationship. So, 20 years ago, Nicole was with this Russian guy who apparently was some big criminal who ended up getting caught for his crimes and deported from the United States. Distraught over the deportation, Nicole then followed him to where he was deported in Moldova to try to find him, and when she ended up finding him, she found out that he was already living with another girl. This was pretty devastating to Nicole, and in an attempt at least somewhat to rebound, she downloads a dating app at the time, makes a profile, and ends up finding this guy Jason. Justin? I was rewatching to confirm his name. I totally forgot. Yeah, she calls him Justin, but his actual name is Igor. But she did not like a Moldovan guy having a Moldovan name, so she renamed him Justin.
I renamed him Justin because when I first met him 17 years ago, he did look like Justin Timberlake.
Justin, Igor, and Nicole date for a while. He eventually proposes, but as it happens, things weren't working out between them. In the middle of fights, she then reveals to him that she was actually born a man. He didn't like that and he went back home. Yeah, she's transgender, by the way. 17 years later, they reconnect online and they're giving it a second chance to see if it'll work out this time. And honestly, when I see someone like that, initially, it's like, okay, great. I got a carte blanche approval to just go ahead and make fun of them because this is a totally unrelatable person and they're free game and it's funny, you know, point and laugh basically. And I know a lot of people online are going to go straight to the jugular and just totally make fun of everything about her because she does look and act in a lot of ways pretty ridiculous. But let me just recap a little bit of what we learned about her so far in somewhat of a different light. She spent over $1 million trying to achieve this kind of Barbie look, and I think that a lot of us would agree that it doesn't look that good, or at least doesn't look healthy or in a way that really screams mental stability and well-being. And I mean that with compassion, by the way. I'm not trying to make fun of her for that. Listen, do whatever you want. If plastic surgery is your thing and you're just interested in it, then, you know, far be it from me to judge you for that or say you can't do it. But when you get to that level of plastic surgery and the costs associated with it, it becomes hard to believe that this is really something done out of genuine interest or desire and not something done as a way to solve some problem more psychologically. So let's put that aside for now and look at how she thinks that she's a music producer. Now, I don't really care that she doesn't have a lot of monthly listeners. What I'm more interested by is her explanation of why she came up with this alter ego.
I created Nikki Exotica as an alter ego. I wanted to have another persona and then come home and be normal again and be Nicole.
Now, having those two sides, maybe the more dramatic or outgoing or party side, and then having the side that doesn't want to go out and just wants to watch a movie on the couch, I think we can all relate to some extent as just part of the normal human experience. But most of us don't have to come up with separate personas and really draw that physical boundary between these two parts of yourself. Again, if this is purely just for fun and this is just kind of a goofy explanation, then, you know, no harm, no foul. But it's just another suggestion, so let's put that aside for now. And then, of course, she's transgender, so we can assume some amount of body dysmorphia, not feeling like you really fit in with what you look like on the outside, and wanting to go through a process where your outside expression matches more what you feel like on the inside. And of course, this is a really complicated and extensive topic that I'm not an expert in and I'm not claiming to be. But while some people might have some kind of gender dysmorphia, maybe perhaps once they go through various stages of transitioning, or they don't have to actually physically transition, sometimes that can be good enough to solve the problem. They go, okay, well now this was the one kind of issue I was having, that's kind of solved, I feel now more myself, you know, we're good to go. But then they talk about how they need to split their personas to better understand how they can be a homebody and also someone who goes out a lot, which a lot of us would say is just normal, but there's some kind of issue with being able to keep those two parts of yourself not conflicting on the inside. And then you have the extensive histories and cost of plastic surgeries that, as I said before, at some point doesn't seem like it's really for fun and might be more for solving some kind of psychological problem with your identity and how you appear to others. If it was just one of those things, then maybe we can understand each one a little bit better. But when you have them all together, and that she was dating a Russian kind of mafia sounding guy, a known criminal that she follows around the world and is cheated on and like that. I don't know about her specifically, but if someone were to just tell me about all of these things together, it would make me think or suspect that there could have been some real deep childhood trauma there that really mess with their internal idea of who they are, their relationship with themselves and the outside world, their ability to understand who they are in a way that might not be completely solved even now at the age of 50. Again, I don't know about her. I'm not a professional, I'm not diagnosing anything. And there's also the chance that, you know, just because you got a bunch of plastic surgeries in the past and maybe at that time it was for solving some kind of problem inside, it could be that now you're like, no, well, those problems are kind of solved. I've been to therapy, I feel good about myself. But I mean, I still have the plastic surgeries, you know, I can't just get rid of them all overnight. But views herself in a largely healthy way now, and the evidence of her face of the previous plastic surgeries and whatnot isn't necessarily evidence of problems that she's dealing with right now. So I'm not calling her a wacky nut job or anything like that, and I'm not judging or diagnosing her specifically. I'm just talking about these things and sharing these ideas in the hopes that we can kind of get our compassionate gears in our head rolling a little bit and realize that, yeah, these people can be pretty easy to make fun of and they are kind of ridiculous, but they are also humans at the end of the day, and what we may see as evidence of how weird they are may also be direct evidence of previous hardships in their lives, and that's not as funny to make fun of. Wait, does she have an OnlyFans too?
Plastic is fantastic. Step into my Barbie world.
Yeah, of course he does. I mean, you know, that's fine. Again, there's no moral problem with having an OnlyFans, but like, come on, TLC, what are you doing? I'm still going to try to have compassion for anyone, you know, on the show. I'm still going to try to do that. But if your whole brand is just me, and you go on a show to self-promote and sell your own life, and it's all me, you know, it's all that, then you're making my job a little harder, okay? Well, those are the first 4 couples on this new season of 90 Day Fiance, and that's the end of the video. So let me know what you thought about these couples in the comments below, and tell me, are you sick of Gino and Jasmine? And how do you feel about all these new and competing plastic surgery social media people coming onto the show and taking it for themselves? On the one hand, it feels much less like a representation of real relationships, which I personally would find interesting. But at the same time, if we're doubling down on it being more trash, garbage TV, then, you know, at least I can turn my brain off a bit more and still be entertained. So I don't know, I'm split. I don't really know how to feel about it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And until next time, if you enjoyed this video and you like my content, make sure to hit subscribe, hit the like button, ring the bell for notifications, and every comment helps the algorithm. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.